A new bill filed by Jacksonville State Representative Angie Nixon is sparking statewide conversation around public safety, accountability, and trust.
As Florida's 2026 legislative session enters its second week, a new debate is heating up in Tallahassee over who's behind the mask during federal law enforcement raids.
Yeah, the Visible Act aims to stop a terrifying trend right now of criminals who are impersonating ICE agents, all to commit violent crimes. 10 Tampa Bay News reporter Asha Patel is live in studio now with more on how this bill could change the way federal agents operate here in our neighborhoods.
Yeah, Caitlin, this is being driven by a growing number of cases across Florida where investigators say criminal pretended to be ICE agents to commit serious crimes. Now a state lawmaker says the state is making that problem worse. She wants it fixed. So I want you guys to take a look at this body cam video from the Bay County Sheriff's Office. Deputies say this woman posed as an ICE agent and briefly kidnapped her ex-boyfriend's wife from her job. And now this video on your screen, you're seeing other body camera footage from Martin County, where deputies arrested a man accusing of impersonating ICE during a fake traffic stop. In Orlando, a man arrested for something similar, impersonating ICE in a neighborhood. State Representative Angie Nixon says cases like these are exactly why she introduced House Bill 419, known as the Visible Act. The bill would require federal agents and immigration officials to show their faces and clearly identify themselves, the same standards already required for local and state law enforcement. Nixon adds, as federal agents work masked without clear identification, it makes it hard for people to know who is a real officer and who is a criminal. Now, this issue isn't just here at home. In Maryland, lawmakers have also raised concerns about federal agents operating masked without clear identification, warning it can create confusion and safety risk. Now, here in Florida, this proposal is now part of the legislative session that has just got underway in Tampa. Asha Patel, 10 Tampa Bay News.
The proposed legislation, known as the Visible Act, would prohibit federal immigration and law enforcement officers from wearing masks while on duty and require them to be clearly identifiable during public enforcement actions.
They're taking photos of the names, their faces, and posting them online with death threats to their family and themselves.
Masks, baseball caps, and sunglasses, well, federal law enforcement is masking up when they're cracking down. And it's raising questions over whether officers simply are protecting their identities or engaging in intimidation. Well, last week, a U.S. congressman confronted ICE officers arresting asylum seekers at a New York courthouse. Heavily armed and masked agents conducted an immigration raid near a popular restaurant in San Diego. And on Friday, masked agents of multiple agencies refused to identify themselves as they detained a gardener in western Massachusetts. The acting ICE director says the agents are covering up to protect their families.
I'm sorry if people are offended by them wearing masks, but I'm not going to let my officers and agents go out there and put their lives on the line and their family on the line because people don't like what immigration enforcement is.
Supporters of the bill say masked officers have caused fear and confusion in immigrant communities, including among people who are documented or waiting court hearings. Public safety cannot exist without public trust. Nixon says her office has received calls from constituents describing frightening encounters with masked agents, situations she believes could escalate unnecessarily.
I'm Florida State Representative Angie Nixon. I'm based out of Jacksonville, Florida, but currently I am in Tallahassee right now. We are in legislative session, and I want you all to know that I actually filed legislation called the Visible Act alongside Senator Carlos Guillermo Smith. So the Visible Act would require immigration officers to be unmasked, as well as to have their department agency name in big bold letters, as well as their last name or their badge ID. The rationale behind this legislation is public safety and safety of the officer. There have been news reports that came out that highlighted the fact that there were some people personating ICE officials and actually kidnapping women and sexually assaulting them. Also, we are in a stand your ground state. That means if people are in fear of their lives, they could stand their ground. And if you are unmasked and unmarked and you are running up on somebody with a gun or whatnot, that could potentially put you in harm's way as a law enforcement officer. And so we want to make sure that people are safe, right? If we want to ensure public trust, we have to ensure that, listen, if you have the power to detain Floridians, they should at least know who you are. That is accountability. That is transparency. At the end of the day, masked men jumping out of unmarked vehicles does nothing but create chaos and mistrust in the community. And so if we want to ensure public trust, we don't need the secret police in our communities. We need them to abide by the Constitution. We need them to treat the overall community with respect. And we need them to treat people humanely at the end of the day.
Advocacy groups argue that clearly identifiable officers reduce panic, prevent impersonation, and protect both civilians and law enforcement. The Visible Act adds to Nixon's legislative profile as she launches her U.S. Senate campaign, placing transparency and accountability at the center of her platform.